Well, it's a child is born in a rural hospital in Wisconsin, and this child is inexplicably aging, growing, and evolving 4 years on each hour, and no one can figure out why. And the movie, we sort of join the story, already in progress, and we kind of find this out as it goes. And there's a nurse named Jess who's got her own life problems going on, who decides upon herself to sneak this child out of the hospital after he's only been alive for a couple hours, but is already like 8 years old. Um, and sneaks the child out of the hospital to take him on the road to Chicago to sort of give him a chance to see what life's all about. It's a film that's asking you to reassess how we're living life and what our priorities are and what we're spending so much time worrying about. And it's interesting to watch this movie coming out of, I like to say coming out of COVID. We're still in it, but it's a strangely perfect film.
You grew up in the Chicagoland area. Chicago was primarily featured, in the movie. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted to come back here to film it and to have it set here.
Sure. Chicago, I've always had this sort of like oddball take on Chicago in a way that I just think it's, as a kid, it was the center of my universe. It is the center of my universe. I just loved coming downtown and going to blues bars and eventually living downtown in Wicker Park area. And just, there's something amazing about also just the look of the city and the architecture and the L train kind of, weaving its way through the city. And I feel like I've seen obviously some great movies filmed in Chicago, but I just feel like I've never seen the movie that captured my sort of childhood wonder at the city. And I came back here in 2014 to sort of, see if I could make the movies that I want to make.
And I think it takes a Chicagoan to understand, one of the most popular things, and not knocking to it, it's a very popular thing to do, but you have people come in from out of town and they want to do the architecture tour. It's always like one thing, like, how can you see the city? And there's a very funny moment in the movie where two people have very different opinions about doing that tour. And I think it takes someone, from Chicago to kind of get that, because I think, when you go somewhere else, you're like, oh, you got to see the Statue of Liberty, or you got to go to the Eiffel Tower, or you have to go, see the Hollywood sign. Like, these are things you see in a book, but it's not necessarily people who live there have the same opinion. I won't give away, what happens, but it's a pretty funny moment.
And it's re-examining like why would you have to do that? Why do you got to go see the Statue of Liberty? Like, why isn't seeing New York, or seeing Chicago, like, why isn't it as much to, it's as much seeing Chicago to go to Wiener's Circle, and get a cheddar burger than it is, or go to, Checkerboard Lounge, or go to, just these little, interesting Chicago centric places than it is to, like, go to the Bean, which is cool. Bean is cool, or the top of the Hancock, or whatever, Sears Tower. It's all really cool. It's fun stuff to do.
When you want to go there, then you want to, you head over, Wiener Circle, and then hit up one of the, local dives, and that's how you're going to get that true Chicago experience. Let's talk a little bit about the young actors, because you start as Tom a little bit older in his life, but how did you find the three brothers? Did you know them ahead of time? Did you have to cast them, and playing those roles in that order?
Yeah, it's a really like a very Hollywoody type of a story in terms of finding the brothers. Yes. So basically, how does this work? So we're having these auditions. We're looking for these kids. We know that the whole movie is kind of riding on you being able to like instantly fall in love with whoever's playing Tom at 8 years old. Like, in a lot of ways, like the whole movie, yes, it's, the movie, we knew the movie really was riding on that. also on whoever played Jess. We're like, if we don't get Jess right and we don't get the 8 and 12-year-old Tom right, we're in trouble, you know. And the makeup, but we'll leave that alone. But so we're holding our auditions, and we've saw probably almost 60, 70, 80 kids. And we had pretty much thought, we're like, okay, I think we got our Tom. And then the very last audition of the very last day of auditions, came the Paul family, and came Judah, Paul, and reading for 8-year-old Tom. And the kid is a great actor. The kid's, it's a weird thing about acting, it's like, I mean, all I could say to that kid is don't let anybody mess with you, because you're really good at, like, it's just, some people do have it. Some people are sort of born with it. And he had done a couple things here and there before, but we decided, we immediately, I looked at the producer, James Sharp, and I said, well, that's done. We did it. This kid is like great. I mean, he's a better actor than me. I'm going to learn from him. Like, he's so good. And so we immediately knew it was him. And then his parents, such lovely people, said, well, just, I don't know if you're still searching for the 12-year-old, or maybe even a 4-year-old if you need one, but I do have, like, literally a 4-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Jackpot. Yeah.
And I was like, jackpot. Yeah, exactly. And it worked out great. And then, even weirder still, it turns out that this family lives literally 6 or 7 houses away from where I grew up in Highland Park. And the boys are going to my old grammar school. And so, yeah, it was really, really fortuitous. So the Paul family.
Sometimes these are just meant to be. That is.
It was almost like I mean, yes, it really was like, and there was a lot of incredibly good film karma behind the making, like things that were like, wow, how does that happen? Or how do we get so lucky with that?